There is a system that uses $3 worth of plastic pipe and a pile of dead leaves to heat water. Not lukewarm water. Water between 120 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough for showers, hot enough for radiant floor heating, hot enough to heat an entire farmhouse through winter. No electricity, no gas line, no solar panels, no monthly bill. The system runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 12 to 18 months straight. And when it finally stops, you rebuild it with yard waste and it runs again. The total cost is less than a fast food meal. A French forester proved this worked in 1972. He heated his entire home. He produced all his domestic hot water. He generated methane gas to cook his meals and fuel his truck, all from a single mound of shredded brushwood behind his house. The French government documented it. Agricultural universities replicated it. The BBC filmed it. And then it disappeared completely, erased from public consciousness within a single generation, as though the laws of thermodynamics had been classified. Then someone in a corporate boardroom did the math. The global water heating market generates over $35 billion annually. The residential energy sector exceeds $1.5 trillion. A free hot water system built from yard waste and $3 of pipe is not a competing product. It is an existential threat to the utility model itself, and what threatens the meter must be disconnected from public knowledge. Welcome to Forbidden Fix. If these stories matter to you, hit subscribe and the bell. This is where we dig up what industries spent decades trying to erase. His name was Jean Pain. He was not a scientist. He was not an engineer. He was a forester living in the dry Mediterranean hills near the village of Villecroze in Provence, southern France. His original problem had nothing to do with energy. Every summer, the tinder-dry brushwood of the garrigue ignited into wildfires that consumed thousands of hectares. The French government's solution was to clear the underbrush and burn it. Paine believed that was a waste. He believed the biomass had value. And in 1969, he began building massive compost piles from shredded forest debris to find out how much. What he discovered was heat, not gentle warmth, ferocious, sustained heat. The core of a properly constructed compost pile undergoes thermophilic decomposition. Aerobic bacteria, primarily species in the genera Bacillus and Thermus, metabolize cellulose and lignin in the organic material. The metabolic byproduct of this bacterial activity is thermal energy, enormous quantities of it. Core temperatures routinely reach between 140 and 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Some well-managed piles exceed 180 degrees. This is not theory. This is measured, documented, and reproducible microbiology. Paine's genius was not discovering the heat. Farmers had known compost piles were hot for centuries. His genius was engineering a way to capture it. He coiled hundreds of feet of polyethylene pipe inside the compost mound before building it up. Cold water entered one end of the coil. As it circulated through the thermophilic core, it absorbed the bacterial heat through simple conduction. By the time it exited the opposite end, the water was between 120 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Consistently, day and night, rain or shine, summer and winter. He connected the output to a storage tank and ran it through a simple hydronic loop to heat his farmhouse. He and his wife Ida lived this way from 1972 until his death in 1981. 9 uninterrupted years of free hot water and free home heating from dead wood and plastic pipe. The biology is not complicated. It is thermodynamics at the most fundamental level. Decomposing organic matter releases heat. This is an exothermic reaction governed by the second law of thermodynamics. You cannot stop it from happening any more than you can stop gravity. The only variables are pile size, material composition, moisture content, and oxygen availability. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has published extensive documentation on thermophilic composting temperatures. The Cornell Waste Management Institute has recorded sustained core temperatures above 150 degrees Fahrenheit for weeks in properly managed piles. The science is settled. Before I go further, this video only covers the basics. Inside the Forbidden Fix vault, I have compiled Jean Paine's original methods, detailed pipe sizing and coil length calculations, material composition ratios, moisture management protocols, temperature optimization strategies, and advanced methane capture techniques that turn the same pile into a cooking gas source. Everything the energy industry hoped would stay buried. The link is in the description. But stay right here because the suppression timeline is the part that should make your blood boil. In 1980, the French National Institute for Agronomic Research formally documented Paine's system and its results. His work was presented at agricultural conferences across Europe. The BBC produced a documentary segment. The European Economic Community funded replication studies. After Jean Pain died in 1981, his wife Ida continued operating the system and giving demonstrations to visitors from around the world. A comprehensive manual titled The Methods of Jean Pain was published and translated into multiple languages. In the United States, the New Alchemy Institute on Cape Cod experimented with compost-heated greenhouses in the late 1970s. The University of Vermont successfully heated water to over 140 degrees using buried pipe coils. The University of New Hampshire has operated compost-heated greenhouses continuously since 2009. The National Center for Appropriate Technology published implementation guides. Every replication confirmed the same result. It works reliably, cheaply, indefinitely. So why is your water heater still running right now? Why did your last gas bill cost $90? Why does every home improvement store sell $600 electric water heaters, but not a single one sells a compost heating guide? Because a compost pile cannot be metered. It cannot be billed monthly. It cannot generate subscription revenue. It cannot be financed over 30 years. Every BTU of free heat from decomposing leaves is a BTU that does not flow through a utility meter. And utility companies do not surrender revenue voluntarily. They lobby, they regulate, they write building codes. In most jurisdictions across the United States, heating domestic water with anything other than a code-approved appliance connected to a permitted and metered energy source is either illegal or uninsurable. Not because compost heat is dangerous, because compost heat is free, and free cannot be taxed, metered, or monetized. The residential water heating market in the United States alone exceeds $12 billion annually. Natural gas distribution for residential use surpasses $60 billion. The global HVAC industry generates over $240 billion. Every dollar of thermal energy that comes from a pile of decomposing wood chips is a dollar that bypasses every one of those industries simultaneously. Jean Pain did not just build a water heater. He built a proof of concept that the entire residential energy billing model is optional, and that is why you have never heard his name. If you have made it this far, you understand more about thermal energy than 99% of homeowners writing $200 monthly checks to heat water with a machine that costs $600 and lasts 8 years. Subscribe and share this video. Every share is one more household that sees the math. Here's how to build a basic system. Step 1, collect organic material, wood chips, shredded branches, leaves, straw, grass clippings, and other green and brown waste. You need a minimum of approximately 1 cubic yard, but larger piles produce more heat and sustain it longer. A pile of 3 to 4 cubic yards is ideal. Step 2, acquire 200 to 400 feet of half-inch or 3/4 inch black polyethylene tubing, available at any hardware or irrigation supply store for $3 to $15 per 100 feet. Step 3, coil the tubing in flat spirals at the base of your pile site before building the mound. As you add material, continue layering coils at different heights within the pile. Ensure pipe is buried at least 18 inches from the outer surface to stay within the thermophilic core. Step 4, connect one end to a cold water source or holding tank. Connect the other end to your point of use, an outdoor shower, a storage tank feeding indoor plumbing, or a hydronic radiant floor loop. Step 5, water. The pile thoroughly during construction. Target approximately 60% moisture content. The material should feel like a wrung-out sponge. Step 6, wait 48 to 72 hours. The pile will begin generating heat. Peak temperatures arrive within 7 to 14 days. Sustained output lasts 12 to 18 months depending on pile size and material composition. Total material cost, between $3 and $20. Compare that to the $8,000 to $12,000 solar hot water system your contractor quoted last month. I need to be honest with you. This system is not a plug-and-play appliance. It requires physical space. An effective pile needs a footprint of at least 60 to 80 square feet. It requires access to large volumes of organic material, which is easy in rural settings but challenging in dense urban environments. The initial thermophilic phase produces noticeable odor for 1 to 3 weeks. Temperature output is variable and cannot be thermostatically controlled the way a gas water heater can. In freezing climates, exposed pipes and the outer shell of the pile will lose heat, requiring insulation or seasonal management. Most municipal building codes do not recognize compost heating as a permitted domestic water heating method, which may affect homeowner insurance, and the system produces hot water, not potable water, unless additional filtration and treatment are added. These are real constraints. They do not change the physics, but they define who can realistically implement this today. For 10,000 years, humans heated water without burning fossil fuels and without paying a monthly bill. Heat came from the sun, from fire, from the biological processes happening in every forest floor on Earth. Your great-grandparents understood this intuitively. Then one generation was taught that the only acceptable way to heat water was to connect a machine to a meter and pay a corporation every 30 days for permission to be warm. There was not a better method. There was just a method that could be billed. Subscribe and share. Every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next vault opens soon. And what is inside might explain how a $1 powder does what a $300 product cannot. A